Wesley So played e4. Christopher Yoo, the 15-year-old, played e5, knight f3, and here Christopher played knight f6, the Petrov's defense. Takes, d6, knight back, takes. Standard stuff in the opening. d4, d5, bishop d3, bishop d6. So a very symmetric system, which is usually the case in the Petrovs. c4, and now we see the first sign of asymmetry. White attacks the d5 pawn, black defends it, and keeps the pawn structure intact. Rook e1, bishop f5. There was a threat on e4, so bishop defends it. Queen b3, attacking the b pawn. Queen d7, defending it. c5, closing down the pawn structure on the queen side. Queen c2, there is more pressure on the knight, but there is no threat as of now because rook can't take. So knight a6, just developing the knight and also threatening knight b4. You don't want to allow knight b4, right? Because that would exchange the bishop off, which is a nice bishop. So a3, stopping it. Bishop g6, just getting out of the pin because knight c3 was coming with more pressure on the knight. So now the bishop is no longer under the pin of the knight. Knight c3, f5. So Christopher lashes out with this move, and this pawn can be used to push forward. And anytime bishop takes or knight takes, the pawn will take back, and black would be in almost a winning position. Knight e2, bishop h5. Kind of threatening bishop takes knight, breaking down the pawn structure. Knight g3, asking Christopher to play bishop takes knight. So Christopher Yoo does not take it now because if he takes now, after pawn takes, he'll have to play knight takes knight. If he goes back, he loses the pawn. And if he takes, then h takes g3 or f takes g3, and there is no attack for black. The f5 pawn looks a little overextended. White has a good rook. There is pressure on the f file, on the f5 square, and the bishop would come out. So it all looks good for white in that case. So that is why Christopher went back. Wesley repeated. Christopher also repeated. So two-time repetition. And here bishop g6, and Wesley could have taken a draw here if he wanted. But being the higher rated player, he wants to win. So he played b4, gaining space. Christopher brought his rook into the game. Bishop b2, trying to play knight e5 because then there is support with the bishop. Rook e6, a nice rook lift. You can also double up or use the rook on the sixth rank. Knight e2, heading to f4 square. But there is no support as of now. You will have to play queen c1 to support it. Queen e7, knight e5, jumping in. f4. Now you can see black's attack is going well. f3 is coming. Queen g5, f3. It looks good for black. Knight takes bishop, rook takes back. f3, stopping black from playing f3. And here comes a very good move by Yoo. He played queen h4. If pawn takes knight, can you find the crushing move that black would play here? Black can play f3 and black is completely winning. Look at the pieces. All the pieces attacking except for this knight, which is doing nothing. The king is in trouble. So that is why Wesley cannot take the knight. He plays knight c3, trying to exchange off the strong knight, and rook h6, threatening queen h2. Still can't take the knight, because if you take the knight, queen into h2, king f1, pawn f3, it becomes horrible for white. So let's go back. So he plays h3, stopping the threat. Now knight g5, putting more pressure on h3 and f3. Queen f2, bringing the defense in. And here queen h5. There is one small move here which you could have tried, but he decided it is not good. It would just be drawish. He could have played queen takes knight. That was worth a shot. Queen takes, pawn takes, knight takes, and when king moves, knight takes, king takes, and rook check. And when king moves, you take the bishop. But then white would play rook e7, and he did not like that position. So let's go back. After queen, he played queen h5. b5, attacking the knight, knight back. a4. So Wesley is gaining space on the queen side, and Christopher Yoo has to create an attack over here. He plays bishop d8, rerouting his bishop. Rook e2, queen f7, king f1, and knight d7, a5. So Wesley is calmly bringing us pawns forward, gaining more space, as if there's nothing happening on the king side, asking Yoo to create something here. And Yoo strikes here with the move knight h3. It was not a calculated sacrifice. Yoo admits that later. He admits that it was an intuitive sacrifice. he knew that something has to be there because the pieces are so active. Takes, takes. Queen g2, queen h5. The pieces are just rushing in. Rook h1 is coming. Rook f2, rook g3. If you play rook h1 now, the king would just escape. The king would be safe there. So you play rook g3, queen moves. So he repeats twice and then plays rook e8, basically going for the win. So the 15-year-old is out for blood. He could have taken a draw here and accepted that he drew a very good player, a top player. But then no, he believes in the position, he calculated and he played rook e8, threatening this rook h1, which would win the queen and the game. Knight e2, only move. Rook e3, a very nice move. What happens if knight takes pawn? If knight takes pawn, what do you think black can do? It's mate. So the knight cannot move. It's stuck here. So rook e3 threatens rook f3. How can white defend this? It looks almost undefendable. Wesley So in big trouble. He plays rook a3, indirectly defending f3. Wesley is prepared to give up a piece so that f3 gets defended somehow. He plays rook h1, check. Knight moves. And now knight f6. The knight also jumps in. Once the queen moves, the knight would also come to h5. Bishop attacks the rook. And here comes a beautiful move, queen h4. Giving up the exchange. Because if you take it, which is what the best move was, and he did it, bishop takes h7 was played. If the rook moves, then there is knight h5 and it's just over for white because knight g3 is coming. And there is discovered attack that the queen is doing on the diagonal. So which means now the only way for white to stay in the game was to give up the bishop and get the rook in. So queen takes, rook takes. Bishop c7, rook comes in. This was a decisive blunder. Till now, it was still good defense by Wesley, but it's very tough to defend continuously. Here, queen b1 should not have been allowed by Wesley. Rook b3 was the only move in this position, or bring the rook to e2 and then defend the check like this. But then Wesley played rook e7, believing that his rook is active and there is no problems for the king. But then comes queen b1 check, rook e1, queen d3 check, rook e2, and now rook h2. A brilliant move. Queen has to move. Yeah, if the queen moves, g3, g5, which is what happened, knight h5. And now everything comes together. Basically, once knight h5 happens, white's inactive pieces are going to pay the price. Now knight g3 is coming and it's mate or give up the queen. And there is no defense. The rook is pinned. It cannot move. The other rook cannot move. The knight is also stuck. So basically, Wesley has been tortured till here and he resigned in this position.